Welcome everybody, and a beautiful Wednesday. Chilly, but a beautiful Wednesday. I think it's the 22nd of June or something like that. So anyway, been back a couple of weeks, back to the grind next week, and already planning for Tasmania next year, amongst other trips. So lots happening. My baby. Don't give it away now. Little Prezi on the way, and I'm due for some new tyres anyway. Now I've cracked the 84,000 Ks plus now, and she is running like a dream. So my 84,000 3.5 year REM. It's a band, isn't it? RM Elite review. Love it. Love it. Yes, I've had the I feel I'll answer a few things which a few people have messaged just on what I've done. I mean, you didn't need to have anything done to this bike. I mean, she come with all the extras, but we all like to customize our own little way, don't we? So obviously I've had the seat all covered, and that is by Andrew from Beyond Trim here in Perth, who is unable to do a lot of work at the moment. He's got some serious back issues. So if you do know Andrew or know of Andrew and you're on his Beyond Trim site, send him some good wishes, because he's a top bloke, a hard worker, and a bloody master at his trade. So obviously I've got the trunk off today, and I'm doing some inquiries about getting a sissy bar backrest here with the rack for just around town for Jax. And obviously I've had the grips done. Now they're Andrews as well. Andrews. The engine heat cooler, not coolers, but engine heat reflectors. But these are Indian. Can't have too many tassels, can you? I dislike my tassels a little bit, you know what I mean? Don't judge me. So, this is our recent one. Get onto Jamie Harvey's site, his Legacy. Absolute top bloke. Even though he did switch from Indian to Harley, but for weight reasons, so I can understand that. I don't really care what anybody rides. We all ride our own brand for our own reason. And he's a good side to get on, so I've stuck that sticker on, and I think that was pretty much, from what I believe, designed by Jamie, but I haven't caught up with him for a while. So this thing here, I reckon it's absolute masterpiece brake pedal thing that I got from the States, and for the life of me cannot find the company now. I don't think they're doing it. What else is going on? So, all right, talk about things that may have not been up to scratch or standard per se. And you know I'm as pro-Indian as they come, and they do 98% on all the bikes, absolutely. But they do sometimes cut some corners. This is one of them. So I've had this, and as many riders have, and if you can see that, I've had that replaced, I think it's 4 times now. And this one lasted a little longer, although they've been approved to, they're replacing them again at a Goodwill, which is great. But I had my 2013-14 Indian vintage, and not once did they flicker or fade in any way, which is just unusual. So they just had a whole bad bunch. I thought all this had been fixed, but I don't believe the left ones are up. It's just the right ones this time, so that's getting replaced. On the trip, I had little button go here on the glove thing. That's purely probably my fault, banging up and down, what have you. And I mean, they're not the sturdiest things, but I'm getting one of those. They're on order. you may have seen I had the only issue I had on the whole trip was the gear selector switch or sensor, I should put it. A sensor, yes. Now that got replaced originally through a recall that had to do by law. There was no problems, but I didn't have any issues at the time until it was replaced. Then I had issues. They replaced it. That was fine. And then in the middle of Queensland, it all happened again. And it would, for instance, you'd be cruising along cruise control, and I would, or the bike would jump into neutral, and you just cut your cruise control out. So, sorry, it doesn't jump the bike into neutral. I could still be in the gear, but it would cut the cruise control off, and it would be telling the bike it's in another gear that it's not. And as you may know, I mean, the Indians, they pretty instinct on telling you what gear you're in, as opposed to some, I remember the Victories, they were quite delayed, but these were right on the ball. So Cairns helped me out there. I think it's Peter, top bloke, the Cairns dealer there, and he did some research for me and spoke to England, and they at a goodwill replaced it again. Well, going to replace it. But I wasn't hanging around in Cairns for 5 or 6 days until they could do it and spend several $100s on accommodation for a $150 part. It just doesn't make sense. So when I got to Rick's in Darwin, I told him and he replaced it, and I believe they were reimbursing him for it. So that was the gear sensor. Been all good ever since, but I have heard apparently you can take them out and clean them or wipe them over and they come good. So I don't know, because they're sort of hidden behind the exhaust here. All that has to come off. But anyway, for those who don't know it, that's also from Karaoke, or whatever you say it. I had that on my other bike. The other thing that I absolutely recommend for you guys with the air suspension, which would be the Springfields, Chieftains, RMs, etc., is to get this extension put on instead of opening up the panel from the other side all the time to do your air suspension, and they do tend to go down over a week or so. These are bloody fantastic. So I got that extended over there, and it's just really handy to have. So there you go. I think that's, apart from the Stage 2 cams and the Freedom pipes, that's pretty much that I've all had on the bike. About to get some new tyres with the Prezi coming along with that. So I pinched that idea off Martin, who's got the same bike in Queensland, and it looks fantastic. So anyway, looking forward to that in the next week or so. Now, we're going to talk about travel. Should I have travelled? Should you travel within Australia with all this bullshit that's going on at the moment? So you know they go and advertise on TV now, travel your own country, go and see Queensland, go and see this, go and see that, across the border, whatever. Bullshit. Bunch of wankers. They're really pissing me off now because they're not stopping that advertising, and that's what's really annoying me. Yes, I got away with going around Australia. Should you travel, in my opinion? No. Are you taking a risk? Yes. I could have got shut down somewhere several times, and that was always weighing on the back of my mind, and especially at the time when we nearly got locked down in Victoria. Through Jackie had left on the 17th, which was right on the cusp of the Victoria and Perth dilemma with the COVID bullshit. And the nurse, even though we were getting tested on that Saturday morning, we went down and get everything sorted. She's going 14 days of isolation for Jackie, blah, blah, blah. So our guts just went into knots, and for what the freaking hell are we going to do? There's her 2 weeks gone for starters. And for the fact that the where we were staying went up considerably in price, from $129 on the Friday night to was going to be $300 and something, but the manager got it down to $240 or $250. So you can imagine what that was going to cost us for 2 weeks. So we're sitting outside the bike, and I'll be honest with you, I was definitely debating in my head. We're heading for the border of New South Wales. The nurse came out at the last, on the 11th hour there while we're standing outside the bike at the COVID station and said, "Oh no, just wait for your negative test." So that was a relief, and we knew that was going to come through, but didn't come through to that night. So we stayed an extra night where we were, but that was fine. It didn't end up upsetting our plans or our travels, but it was definitely kept on playing in our heads. You know, and it's not a good feeling. It's to be sort of told, it's one thing to be saying, "Oh, I want to lay in bed for 2 days and just chill out and watch TV," but when you're basically forced to and you have no choice and it's sort of like you cannot go out, then it comes a whole different ball game mentally, for sure, mostly mentally. So anyway, we got away with it and continued on, and we were able to do some fantastic riding together until Jax flew home, and then I was right on the borderline again when Queensland were going to shut off New South Wales. So I got into Queensland just in time before all that shit hit the fan. So I think it's an absolute joke at the moment. Victoria is pretty much in the same position, if not worse position than they were 12 months ago, and they still haven't sorted this shit out. In my opinion, are we being had? Are we being conned? Are we whatever? I'm not going to go into it. I'm not even going to touch on that ball ground because I'm not going to get political and I don't get religious, and I'm going to keep away from that crap. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. Work it out for yourselves, people. But as in, for should we be travelling? Do I recommend you go travelling? No. And they should stop the bloody advertising on the TV, because you can just zoom over 1 second and the next minute you're locked in, or you're trying to come back here, and if you come back here you got 14 days isolation, and not many people are going to be in the position to be locked up in the back of a house and they've got that room. They'll have to do a hotel or something like that, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. Anyway, that's my 2 pence. Travel plans are afoot for Tasmania in February, March next year. If all goes to plan, we'll see what happens. And that's sort of going to be 4 or 5 week trip. We've got a couple of people sort of interested. We're just going to go with some close friends mostly and meet some people over there. Jackie hasn't been to Tasmania. I did it a few years ago. I did a week there, and I'm really looking forward to it. And she's going to ride across the Nullarbor with me this time. So with our friends Mike and Jan. So at that stage, that's all coming together, but that's a few months away. Bit of planning to do. What else is happening? It's really about it. I have to recommend some sites for sure, and I mean, there's one lot that inspire me a lot, and there's Brian and Barbara over in the USA with Ride with Two Indians, or Two Indians on the YouTube and Facebook. They do all the stuff on YouTube, incredible editing stuff. Brian's just got an incredible knack for that, and they just have a lot of fun together and do some fantastic rides. And the information he supplies for not only just Indians, but all sorts of the bikes. He rides with all sorts of friends with different bikes. Awesome channel to get onto. So Ride with Two Indians. Obviously you got the barbering biker, good old crazy Chris with the Aussie and the Indian. Get onto it. You want something different? Outback Outlaw. He's up north of Perth, right up north, up Broome Way. He's got a fantastic, interesting channel to do at the moment. And who else we go? That's all I can think of at the moment. Gone for too long anyway, nearly 15 minutes. So there she is. There's my girl, Miss Tennessee. She's absolutely gorgeous. 84,000 Ks and going strong. All right, take care of yourselves. Hope we can keep struggling through all this COVID bullshit and life in general, if we don't have enough to deal with. And just keep riding, keep smiling. Do what pleases you and don't worry about anybody else. because it don't matter. It only matters what you matter.